Hello. Video game glitches are the fear of glitches. A fear so rarely discussed that it doesn't even have a proper name. Technophobia doesn't cut it, because that refers to the fear of technology in general. Cyberphobia doesn't cut it either, because that's the fear of computers. If we check the phobia wiki on fandom.com, we can find the term versophobia as a proper reference to the fear of glitches. However, the only other source on the internet that uses this term comes from a Quora post that seemed to coin the term on a whim, basing its roots on the German word Verzerung, meaning distortion. So if there's not even a name for this fear, then why is it so common? There isn't a lot of research done on people who are unsettled by glitches, but there's a lot of people on the internet who have reported feeling creeped out anytime their game or software, anything like that, decides to glitch out on them. It's more common than you might suspect, and honestly, it makes sense. Imagine this. You're sitting around late at night playing your favorite comfort game. Then suddenly your character begins to contort their limbs in a sickening and very much inhuman manner. Or maybe you've run into the wall at just the wrong angle and now you're plummeting endlessly through the void. The vast environment filled with rich and lifelike details you were just exploring has suddenly been replaced by a simple, cold gradient surrounding your character from every angle. But who cares though, right? You're not in any real danger, your character just glitched through the wall or something. But see, that's the thing, right? Rationally, I'm not in any danger when my game glitches. But what about the other me? The me in there. Video games have a way of attaching the playable character to the identity of the one playing the game. It's the namesake of the hero of the classic Zelda series, Link. When you delve deep into one of your favorite games, if the developers have done their job well, you will become linked to your character. It's your proxy into another world. So with that in mind, when something as unnatural and immersion-shattering as a glitch happens in your game, your proxy becomes compromised. Let's take a closer look at that moment. The exact instant that the glitch occurs. Let's say you're running around the game world like usual, but then your character falls through the void, out of nowhere. Now, a lot of people will probably just respond with some form of mild aggravation. You were trying to unwind a little bit after a long day, but now even your game is giving you a hard time. Or maybe you're someone who finds glitches like this to be interesting. Like a cool Easter egg you just discovered, something you can post on your favorite subreddit. But for many people, the experience is quite different. Your character is now falling through nothingness. This wasn't at all something that you expected either. Your brain craves patterns and routines, and it certainly wasn't ready for this pattern. Now you've lost control of the situation, and you're very likely experiencing the stress response. Your brain is wired to constantly chase a state of homeostasis, meaning that it wants to maintain a constant and stable state. That basically means when something new and unexpected happens, we're surprised. But when that surprise is something that we're not happy about, something completely unexpected that messes everything up, we experience the stress response, also known is the fight or flight response. And now that you're experiencing the fight or flight response, your brain is left to decipher everything that's going on around you. All the questions start racing in your head. Is this a threat? My character in a fictional world was doing the things that they do, and suddenly they fell through a void, and now they're dead. I got a game over. But am I in danger? Obviously not, right? It's just a game, after all. But for that split moment, before we can really decipher everything that's going on in front of us, our brains can't tell if we're in danger or not. When experiencing the stress response, the brain loses its ability to rationalize effectively. At the same time, the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that controls action, becomes engaged, creating the impulse to react now. Think later. But in this scenario, there's nothing to act on. It's not like we need to suddenly get up and run away, and it's not really like we can just start fighting either. I mean, what are you gonna do, square up with the TV? No, there's no real action to take here. In reality, there is no danger. But our ability to rationalize and perceive that fact is lowered by the stress response. This is where the ambiguity factor comes into play. The Oxford definition of the word creepy is causing an unpleasant feeling of fear or unease. When something is creepy, it isn't downright terrifying. Like encountering a tornado down the street would no doubt be a very frightening scenario, but it wouldn't be creepy per se. But a stranger staring at you from their porch in the middle of the night? That is creepy. Creepiness is the direct result of ambiguity. Something is creepy when we can't perceive whether that thing is a threat or not. Or more specifically, when the brain struggles to discern whether it should become fearful and alert or remain calm. The choice is unclear. Glitches are creepy because our brains don't immediately know what to think of them. Even if it's just something like a texture loading in incorrectly or a minor facial bug, our brains don't really know what's going on except for the fact that something is not quite right. The uncanny valley is a term that we use to describe pieces of art or design that were meant to look very realistic or human-like, but just don't quite match up. The uncanny valley is what we experience when we look at animation that looks about 95% real and 5% like something that has been artificially crafted. Our brains just get confused when looking at a man-made replica of a human. We are hardwired to find faces where there are none, to personify objects that look like they may be alive. So when we're looking at a really well-done, realistic depiction of a human, our brains are trying to decide what's going on here because we can tell that it's not quite right. It's not human, but it looks so much like it. All that we know is that the answer to that question is ambiguous. This phenomenon is also activated in the presence of glitches, especially in very photorealistic games. When a character model looks superbly designed, so much that our sense of disbelief can kick in and allow us to pretend we're looking at a real person, we become a target for the uncanny valley. Because of this hyper-realistic, illusionary effect, should the character model experience even the smallest glitch, our certainty over what we're looking at is obliterated. Apply this to the most glitched out game you can think of. Imagine you're playing a game like The Sims, for example, and suddenly some of the characters start flailing their limbs wildly. They had just been controlling perfectly normal human-like beings, but now suddenly these creatures have 20-foot long arms and can swim through the air. It's unsettling. The aesthetics of glitches in their rawest form can oftentimes be deeply unnerving. To a lot of people, these things are way more than just mere technical errors. They tap into a deep-rooted fear of the unknown, the unsettling, and the uncanny. When we play video games, our brains immerse us into another world through their powerful ability to suspend disbelief. Our brains remove temporarily the world around us as we become part of another. But when that second world that we've been transported to momentarily unravels in front of us, immersion becomes a brief terror. In a split second, real danger and confusion pours through the player's mind. Moments later, we remind ourselves that everything is fine, it's just a game. But games are very powerful, and so are our brains. So be careful out there, because you never know when the next glitch could happen to